So, yeah, as Loretta mentioned, Peter and I are the research team. So we're in research development for the FABLE faculty. So that's, arts, business, law, design, sort of education. So we particularly represent those academics. Of course, there are a lot more academics who are presenting today from different universities and other areas. So, of course, having been involved in the registration process, if you wanted to contact anyone who was not in our faculty, certainly you can do so through us as well. And we're happy to kind of have a conversation with you if you wanted to link up with, anybody involved in today's presentation. So we've heard a lot of really great research today, and it's been really excellent, because the diversity has been amazing. So, I've really enjoyed that element. And so we're here to talk about how research can benefit community, government and business. So, it's one thing to be, really bookish and enjoy kind of looking at little theoretical things and kind of, get some, interesting facts, but to actually apply the research that you do to the community and to have real world benefits, that's really what we want at universities and as researchers. So, that is our aim. So why do we want to partner with external organisations, individuals, or whatever? Well, and in fact, why would they, external entities want to collaborate with university researchers? So you've heard all of the expertise from a broad array of disciplines that everyone shared with you today. So everybody has obviously a wealth of expertise, and aside from the people today, there are a lot more that we could have fit in the program if we had unlimited time. So we certainly, the one thing we do have here at universities is just a great lot of researchers with really interesting and diverse careers, and who can apply the skills to so many other questions that are out there. So academic researchers can certainly lend their expertise to your organisation and find solutions for you for pressing problems that you might have. Organisations can benefit from our expertise through partnerships and consultancy projects and things like that, and I can give you a couple of examples of the sorts of things that we've done. It can also open opportunities to partner to access federal government funding. So that's something that Peter will talk a little bit more detail about that a bit later on, but there are certainly an array of options available, and there's a couple of really quite good ones for research that we'll go into. And basically, because of these government funding resources available, what the research costs to your organisation is substantially less than what it would were you sort of paying up front for this sort of expertise. So why we want to partner with community, government and business? We want our research to have impact. So the definition of research impact that I've put there is actually, that's been put out by the Australian government. So they want Australian universities and research institutes to conduct research that makes a difference to the economy, society, culture, national security, public policy or services, health, the environment, or quality of life beyond contributions to academia. So they want it to matter and to make people's lives better. And it's pretty clear that all of the things that everyone has been talking about up to date, people are doing these things. They're talking about interventions. They're actually going and working with communities. So, that's great, and we can certainly continue to do and are looking to do more of that. We know our research has impact if it gets used, if it has those benefits. This one's a bit wordy actually, but this is just a little bit about the Australian government rhetoric at the moment. So they're very much funding universities and pushing to us the message that they want universities and research institutes to kind of have a strong place in the communities in which we operate. And so that means, local communities wide, Australia-wide, worldwide, to be, a responsible citizen and player, and to kind of, share all that information and knowledge with the communities and to benefit them. So that's just some stuff that they've put out there, which won't go through the verbatim, but that's what they want from us at the moment. So some things that we can achieve through partnering with organisations. And when I say organisations, I mean that can be not-for-profits, it can be community groups, it can be sort of whatever entity, whatever that looks like. So one of our researchers that you heard from this morning, Julie Lee, and she was the one sort of talking about values and sort of how people, their different personality traits and what they value might affect the sort of services they want or what they're attracted to and what messaging they'll respond to. So she did a project with an organisation called Pure Profile, and they run a panel service, and so they basically have all of these Australian citizens doing all of these surveys for them, and they kind of create business knowledge out of that. So Julie was able to help that organisation, and this quote up here is from them. So they were very interested in partnering with Julie and looking at her work on values research, because it gave them insights that can help them and their clients. So they're a for-profit organisation, so they were able to assist monetarily with by committing money to Julie's project. However, there are other sorts of partnerships with community and not-for-profit organisations where it's more, you might be just committing rather than actual dollars. It could be person hours, time, it could be data that you have or access to your community groups or clients that we could do some research with or something like that. So each project looks different, and we can help people to discuss how to construct a project or how to get around and kind of solve a problem that you want solving. And so another one was a couple of not-for-profits actually came together because they wanted some assistance with building their effective teams. So they wanted to make sure that they were being as efficient as possible. And Sharon Parker, who you heard from earlier, was actually in that particular team with this organisation, and they found significant benefits as well. And so that's just another example of a quote from them that the sorts of benefits that they're getting from these sorts of partnerships with our research teams. And so there were two organisations, as I mentioned earlier, so this is the other one, so they also got some benefits from that partnership. So Australian linkage projects specifically, so that's the Australian government funding that I mentioned earlier. So at this point, we're just going to mention that scheme in a little bit more detail, and so I'm going to kick over to my teammate Peter, and he'll go into a bit more detail on that. Thanks.
Okay, thanks Melina. Good to see you kept to 10 minutes there after waving those cards around all day at our speakers to keep them to time. I'll also try to be brief, aware that this is the last session and it's been quite a long day. So I'm going to talk specifically about a government funding scheme which is designed to promote and to facilitate the type of partnerships between university researchers and external organisations that we've been hearing about. So this is the ARC linkage scheme, and I know one of the things that Loretta is hoping to get out of today's proceedings is perhaps an application for funding to this scheme, which can lead to further research partnerships between universities and local government and other external parties. So the ARC, Australian Research Council, supports high-quality fundamental and applied research and research training, etc., etc. It funds all areas of research except for clinical and other medical research, which is supported by the NHMRC, which of course some of our speakers today are very familiar with. And the outcomes, crucially, of ARC-funded research should deliver cultural, economic, social and environmental benefits to all Australians. So the ARC has a number of funding streams. The one which we're particularly interested in today is the linkage program, linkage projects. And the purpose of this scheme is to support the initiation and development of strategic research alliances between higher education organisations and other organisations, including industry, also government, local government, state, federal government, also the not-for-profit sector, charities, overseas organisations, with the aim of providing national economic, commercial, social, cultural benefits. And there's a bit more there about the aims of the linkage scheme. So we can apply to the ARC under this scheme for up to $300,000 a year for up to 5 years. The projects have to be led by a university-based CI, Chief Investigator. Can also include investigators from industry partners or the external partner organisations. And the partner organisations can, of course, be government departments, local government, state government, etc. Can also be private companies, charities, not-for-profits, cultural organisations, overseas organisations. The main thing is that there's a genuine partnership between the academic side and the non-academic side, and there has to be genuine involvement from the partner organisations. So crucially, there needs to be, as Melina alluded to, cash and or in-kind commitment, preferably both. The way the linkage scheme works is that the amount of funding that you request from the ARC is meant to be matched by the amount of resources committed by the partner organisations. So, for example, if we're requesting, say, $100,000 a year for 3 years from the ARC under this scheme, there would need to be a matching commitment of $100,000 a year for 3 years from the partner organisations collectively. Now, that doesn't all have to be cash. Only 25% of that has to be cash. The remainder can be what they call in-kind contributions. And so that is, for example, the value of the staff time of people working on the project at the partner organisations. That's broadly how it works. There are exceptions. If all of the partner organisations in a project are what the ARC describes as eligible exempt organisations, which basically means if they're small businesses or not-for-profits, then the cash requirement is waived entirely, and the contribution can be entirely in kind. Anyway, the basic principle is there needs to be active involvement in the research programme from the external partners, and the project needs to be relevant and of use to them. So it's not enough to say, well, here's some money, we like the project, go away and do it and tell us the results in 3 years' time. It needs to be a genuine partnership with all sides working together at all stages. So applications can be submitted to this scheme at any time. It's quite interesting because back in the old days, up to a year or two ago, you had to apply at a set time each year. It was November. Everyone knew the deadline and everyone worked towards it. Since that deadline has been abolished and the ARC has said you can apply at any time, it seems no one quite gets around to applying because the deadline certainly seemed to focus the mind. Anyway, we can apply at any time. Results announced 4 to 6 months later. It does take a while. There's a fairly rigorous peer review process. You can see the selection criteria there. That's how the ARC decides what to fund. 25% is on the quality, the track record of the investigators, 25% the project quality, 20% feasibility, and 30% benefit. So the success rate is currently just over 30%, but we understand the ARC is putting extra resources into this scheme, so we're hoping that will increase. So it's probably quite a good time to apply. The success rate compared with most of these government funding schemes is actually relatively high. So that's an overview of the scheme. If you're interested, then please speak to Loretta or another interested academic, or speak to Melina or myself, or potentially our equivalents at other WA universities.